Hi, I'm Chris Hamley. I'm the managing partner of the Brecham Group.
Hi, I'm Shane Smith. I'm the managing partner with enVista.
Steve Pullo, Executive Vice President, Professional Services, Made for Net.
Michael Wohlwend, Managing Principal and Founder of Alpine Supply Chain Solutions. So I don't know about you guys, but what I've seen, the WMS evolution has been crazy, but I think we have to level set. So first, in a warehouse, you have 4 assets: space, equipment, labor, control. That control is all the systems, right? So if you think about a warehouse management system, it's really the brain of the warehouse, making sure that you maximize those assets. So in the last decade, because I've been doing this since the early 90s, moving from on-prem to the cloud has been a big change. And then the different channels that the warehouse fulfills. So back in the day, it was pallet in, pallet out, or pallet in, case out. Now with e-commerce, it's each picking, wave, batches, cartonization, picking into the outbound box, and all the parcel manifesting. So I think that's been the biggest change.
Or I think tag onto that, I think another component is again, a decade ago or 30 years ago, the WMS role was really, here's our process and we define it and we implement it. I think there's an adaptability factor with the speed of change in total now, that it's not just a set it and forget it kind of system. It's something that has to evolve continually also. And I think that goes into partner selection now and a ton of other things about, you think about the future more so than just your current state. So I think some of the biggest challenges that customers face today in implementing and selecting the WMS really come down to finding the right partner. As you think about the role of the system and what it is, you're really getting married to an organization. So you're looking for a partner that you can go in and build a foundation with, and that you can build from as well.
I think one of the other challenges is budget. A lot of people, have 2 guys that know RPG and they've been running an AS400 and it's plugged in. And now they're going to a subscription and it's a monthly fee. They have a technology debt that they aren't normally, budgeting for. And so all of a sudden you start having real conversations about what this new WMS is going to cost. And there's a little sticker shock.
Yeah. And going back to the point about what they're facing today and the issues that they really see, when you think about the budget of that and the implications of, I have to now pay for that, you see people making purchasing decisions that are dollar-based, less than functionality-based sometimes. And that hurts, right?
For sure, because I think then they get to a point where they're questioning why the functionality doesn't work, where then they've made a decision based on a financial play. You agree with that?
One thing that is really important too is to challenge and change. Challenge what you're doing, understand what the functionality is providing, and be open to the change. We see that as a very, very important component for client success.
If you look back years ago, really the WMS, WES, and the WCS really ran in silos, and data was integrated between those two, but it was a slow integration. And so we weren't at that point dealing with shared data in a real time. So I think now you're seeing that integration is very seamless. We are seeing that the data across that is accurate and it's real time. Those things are going to help with the real time decision making as well into our warehousing, because we're not having to wait for data or manually enter data. We're seeing that real time, which is helping with productivity, helping with overall inventory control as well.
Even to the point that you think about, again, going back a decade, right? Things you used to have to guess at in the operations because you didn't have data points. Now you have data points. You can actually make informed decisions now, right?
Right, that's right.
Key capabilities of a modern WMS. What we would look for is an adaptable, scalable solution, cloud-based, integration with automation, robotics, very important. Multi-channel support for the ability to handle new and emerging channels within your business. And lastly, a fast-paced, changeable, adaptable solution. AI and machine learning are also very important.
So it's interesting if you think about the warehouse management system as the brain, and you have the RF devices actually capturing information and triggering actions. So whether it's a goods to person solution or an AMR solution, it's just a natural extension of the WMS executing tasks and feeding back to the warehouse management system. So you still need a WMS to do the receiving, system directed put away, triggered replenishments, whether it's to a goods to person or an AGV. Still need WMS as the brain, but I look at the goods to person solution and these AMRs as natural extensions of actually executing the tasks.
What we see a lot is that the ability to react in real time, and that's what that kind of technology can enable.
Yeah.
I think as we add in robots, different types of agents that are going to help enable the overall supply chain, that this MAO layer can really help orchestrate a lot of these activities, right? You have robots in a facility, you potentially have bottlenecks. MAO can then redirect a robot to another location, bringing in a new robot to take over so that you get that continuous workflow. And again, I think that's where MAO is going to help a lot in the supply chain within warehousing to orchestrate all of these activities.
So thinking about like where to draw the line of functionality, particularly,
That's
right?
the great question.
It's
Yeah.
it's how do you determine that? How do you decide which system should be controlling what? Because every system has certain optimization characteristics to it, right?
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Every time we get into a design, so we had a client, they had a VLM, they had AGV, they had pick the light, right? And so, all right, the AGV company is like, just give me all the orders and I'm going to do the batch picking. The WMS vendor is like, no, my batch picking's world class and I want to do the batch picking and you just execute it. So the design and who owns what is a really, really interesting thing. Now, that being said, we said, here's the deal. Go with the AGV. They think that they've got machine learning and AI. Let's see if it works. And if it doesn't, we can go back to the WMS to do the batch picking, by a cart. But on the flip side, a lot of the goods to person solutions have, AI tools, and they're really looking at the MSUs and PSUs and what's on them. So let's empower them, right? We'll get the material there. We'll get the orders out. Let the WMS track it, but let them do the actual execution and optimization.
Yeah, I want to add to that too. I think proof of concept is a very critical piece when you're making those decisions, right? Because everyone really wants to fight for their system being the right system, right? That's where it should be. Where if you do a proof of concept, then you see the reality of what's going to happen within that operation.
Absolutely. I like the redundancy. It's also a good
Yeah.
approach, where you have the ability to service the needs. Primary and secondary gives you some flexibility. So AI, machine learning in the real world are a couple of things, both strategic and tactical. What we're seeing is benefits from demand planning as well as inventory leveling within the network. Some quality, both through AI at the operational level and in the systemic level. And then within the facility themselves, so more of a tactical benefit, dynamic and predictive picking algorithms, and then pick route optimization. They're also things that we see. And then lastly, it's the integration into automation and robotics, the ability to adapt and react to real-time needs.
One way that we are going to market with this is with a WOS is really what we're calling it, right? A warehouse orchestrating system, because within the warehouse, again, we're going to have lots of agents that are going to be helping support that overall distribution, right? Making sure product gets where it's going in a timely manner, making sure that we can adapt to different situations. So this orchestration layer will be the layer that really makes those decisions, dynamically making those decisions, looking for bottlenecks, looking for areas in the warehouse where we may have, for example, hot orders that are coming through. And instead of someone manually having to go into a wave, create a wave, make sure that that's a higher priority within the warehouse, that this orchestration layer will do that automatically. Will automatically make those shifts, move people, move robots, so that we can again continue with our workflow.
So as you think about kind of the visibility of data and what we see in the WMS system today compared to where we were, 20 years ago, right? The ability to make better decisions and have better visibility to what's going on. Think about like a decade ago, we were worried about order start and order completion time so we can tell customer service what to put on the website, right? To give notice to customers. And now we have visibility to how do we do it throughout the system. We can talk about real-time fill rates and what's happening with a specific order, and all that visibility really just helps the customer experience ultimately.
It's really the intersection of labor and technology. There's a multi-pronged approach that you need to take, really about leveraging automation and robotics, sourcing, so establishing sources for your labor force based on peak needs, process improvement, and that's just the standard leveraging your data from the WMS to enhance your productivity, use the tools. And then ultimately that can gain traction for a labor management system to benefit your labor productivity and tracking.
I think the big thing today is like everybody's having a hard time finding labor, right? For the first time ever, they can go wherever they want and walk less or get paid more. And so I think if you can find a platform that allows gamification, so they know that they have a performance, they know they have to do it, but if they make it fun and I'm beating Leslie or I'm beating Johnny Lunchbox and on a daily basis, it gives them a different level of engagement versus just a mundane task that they're doing in the facility. So I think being able to leverage all that and then apply some sort of employee engagement really helps.
I think that's an excellent point, because I remember when gamification first came out and I was like, what the heck is this? Like, now we've implemented it within distribution centers, and you do see productivity increases. You see some excitement from the team. People love the competitive nature of that, right? They can often look on their phone and see where they are, or there's a TV within the distribution center to better understand where they are. They don't want to be last, so they work harder to get themselves up. So I agree with you 100%.
And guess what? If all of a sudden they're down that day, they're like, my order profile was horrible. Somebody needs to change the performance standard. Or like they'll tell you, I think we could do it better if we do this. All of a sudden now they're providing feedback.
They really get creative,
Yeah.
right? They do. And so they help enable that.
The best testers, if you will, the best optimization engine that you have to be top of the list. Yeah.
I think the other thing too is thinking about the learning curve. Remember back in the day when you had to navigate screens and know what screen number I was going to, and just the entire user experience now of a WMS system, and be able to navigate and solve problems real time along with gamification, because people like to win, right?
For sure.
But when you have an easy tool for them to navigate, it helps improve your ramp up time for new employees. While we have turnover, we can deal with it more effectively than we used to be able to. Not eliminate it, unfortunately, but we can deal with it at least.
You bring up an excellent point, which is we talk about labor and the ability to need to flex your labor. You need the ability to train that labor very quickly and focus that training onto what your exact needs are, not just everything about WMS. I need a picker. I need a quick training program to enable that picker to get them productive as soon as possible.
I think, sorry, I was just going to add, because
No, too late.
I mean, we've talked a lot about automation and all of the different ways that we can help enable that. I think you bring up a really good point about labor, and that is the automation piece does help with that transition for an employee, a brand new employee too, because there's less things they have to learn about how to do their job, because they have other tools that are helping them.
So we were talking about WMS, the brain, maximizing the space. Well, one of those is labor, right? So now today, we've always known a warehouse management system is a real-time execution system, and we're capturing all those datas. So now if you have predetermined time standards or reasonable expectancies, and you know what an amount for every order, every line, every each is, now as a warehouse manager, I can actually assimilate my people based on the need. So it's 5 p.m. I need 3 more pickers in the A module to hit all my orders, pick, pack, and ship by the 7 o'clock FedEx pickup, right? So those are the types of tools that we're able to do, number one. Number two, back to this whole gamification. So there's dashboards in every department, and you can see who's doing what, and it puts a little, chutzpah in everybody's step, and they want to actually improve their performance. So it's great to actually be able to have real-time information, make decisions about where to put your labor, and then help the labor team get engaged and get a better ROI on.
Yeah.
Companies are really using the WMS packages now to kind of, we were talking earlier about onboarding and training and really helping the experience of the user, right? Um, from an efficiency perspective, the tools that we have, the ability to see what they're doing. We were talking about the gamification world, right? Of, when you start having that data and visibility that we didn't have a long time ago, right? We can start to really make different decisions and utilize people better, right?
Yeah, I think the world of where it used to be just we need to get a task done. You mentioned that earlier, but we've got to receive a product, put it away. We've got to pick it and get it shipped. Has kind of gone away. Like as we do a lot of selections and helping people decide what is the right solution for you, a lot of that is driven on what is that user experience going to be like, right? Does it feel and look like my device that I use on a daily basis, where it used to never be that way? So I think the whole human automation collaboration is a very important piece of our future. It's helping enable the human. Now, the human piece of supply chain and distribution, warehousing will never go away. We're always going to have that. But we want to help them. We want to have cobots in place where that's just maybe helping them in lifting products so that we have less injuries. They're more productive. Wearable technologies, devices like AR headsets, exoskeletons where they can actually wear a device that helps them with lifting. All of these things, again, are just helping make the human piece of this more efficient, less injuries, and ultimately more productive. Some other examples of that would be like an automated picking assistant, where a robot actually brings product to someone, and then all they have to do is handle that product. That's another example of where I think it's going to be an important piece of our future.
In addition to that, right, we have a client, they got their number one picker, brand new pick-to-light system hitting 260 lines per hour. Brand new temp. All you do, scan this box, hit the lights, put it in there. 309 lines per hour. Never worked in the warehouse before, so it's KISS, right? Keep it super simple.
Yeah.
We're setting up environments leveraging WMS, pick the light, automation technology to allow the employees a very easy environment, not have to think a lot or make a lot of decisions, which allows us to execute faster.
And keep people, right? Like that's the goal. Like there's so much turnover within our space that those type of things make it so much better for people. Makes them enjoy their work.
Implementation there is really important. Change management, how you bring that new technology into the environment is very important for the existing workforce. They can't be threatened by it. They have to embrace it. You have to really work with the workforce to change, and so they adapt, because this is, in fact, as you mentioned, this is to help the employee, not to be a threat to the employer.
Well, yeah, let's see. Yeah, I think the change management though is an interesting point, because using your example of your picker who is doing 260 and the new person coming in doing more, right? Oftentimes the change management is more about getting the people you've had to forget what they used to know and used to do and move them to the new platform, right? So oftentimes it's about how do you forget that? How do you take them through that journey and educate them and teach them and let them be a part of that process? Because yeah, without it, they'll keep underperforming because they're still trying to do the old stuff, right?
I think that's an excellent call out. It's really, really good call out.
So some of the key challenges for scaling WMS, high volume DCs, there's classics, right? The high transaction volume and maintaining performance, responsiveness in that high transaction volume. There's also the challenge of testing and deploying new innovations, new code or fixes in that environment. It's a high transaction volume. How do you do that? Take advantage of automated tools to benefit the deployment, to lower your risk of deployment. There's some cloud challenges. We want our high transaction WMS to be cloud-based. There's latency that you have to be aware of and design for. Avoid those millisecond counts and understand what your latency is. And then you just have general security and compliance that you need to adhere to in today's cyber world.
Speeds and feeds, right? If you're doing 50,000 orders a day in 10 hours, you can't be like, going out there and do rate shopping and hit a Panda right before it goes out the door. You're doing that all up front. And then what do you do with 50,000 orders, right? You're trying to ping a UPS or a FedEx server. You're never going to get it back in time, right? So I think really understanding the environment and solving for that is really going to be an important part of that.
It is. I mean, it's something that we always knew, but we learn again. Integration to automation. You count your milliseconds. How long do you have until that divert? Or those are the questions you have to really pose, and then you throw the cloud in, and you have a latency challenge. These are things that the highly volume WMS DCs need to handle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's why it's so critical that integration be seamless, right? I know that's something we're going to talk about, but like having that seamless integration gives us one true source of data. And in the past, that wasn't always the case. There was a lot of manual entry from WMS, for example, into the TMS system, or your OMS from your ERP to OMS. So all of that being now what is typically a seamless integration, we're seeing obviously better data, better forecasting, better end-to-end tracking from our distribution, from the time it ships to it gets to the customer, so we can provide better data to that customer so they know they're going to get their product, when they're going to get it. Our days are of, well, it should be here in a few days, are gone. That's changed. I'm constantly, when I get an order or I place an order for something, I'm tracking like exactly where it is. I can see the truck driving up to my apartment and I'm like, okay, it's here now, and that was never the case for many, many years. So
Creeper.
I think also, we were talking about the budget side of it earlier, right? As you think about how do you position a decision today about your WMS for the future, a lot of it is don't shortcut it, right? Don't make a budget-based decision today on what that integration looks like or how I'm going to do that process, because it will ultimately become the limiting factor down the road. And now I'm in production with it. I'm trying to do a change live, and my risk just went through the roof in trying to make that happen, right?
Right. That's a very good point, because I do think a lot of times there are cuts there where people are like, well, we can manually go in and enter this information, and then changes come later on that affect that as well. It's a really good call out.
I don't know about you guys, but we're starting to see more and more global WMS projects, right? And what we're seeing is kind of two goals. Number one, they want real-time global inventory across the entire world. And then number two is they want standardization of two things. Number one, best practices, right? So they want everybody to be able to be promoted in one warehouse to another, and they do the same processes. And number two is they standardize on one platform. There's a lower total cost of ownership to maintain and support it, right? So I think that's the type of stuff we're seeing with these globalization projects.
Yeah, I think you're 100% accurate, everything you just said. And I think that that we often try to build what is a golden template for all of that, right? And we want to make sure that they are standard across with some localization, because there's always going to be that piece of localization where they're dealing with maybe some different customer and or the facility just looks different, right? So, but overall, I 100% agree with you that we are seeing way more global implementations than.
I think one of the keys to both globalization and localization is the ability of the solution to be adaptable. And locally you can adapt to the idiosyncrasies of that facility, whether it's the location layout or a processing path. You need to have the ability to address both locally without significant effort.
Yeah, very good call out.
I think one of the things that we talk about often is what exactly do you standardize, right? We try to focus on the standardization of the approach of how you solve the problem, because to your point, every facility may look a little different. The nuances of that market might be slightly different, but as long as you have the same approach that you take in solving the problem, the actual solution can vary from site to site a little more. But ultimately, everybody has to understand the why we did that.
Yeah.
A full circle point too that Shane referred up earlier is integrations. You can standardize on core integration as well.
So some advice for someone trying to future-proof their WMS investment, ultimately is don't do anything exclusionary today. As you think about the future and what it might hold, as you make decisions, they can't be short-term decisions and they can't be based in, the knowns of today. We have to always allow the opportunity for what the possible might be. And understanding kind of what the guardrails of the future might hold for you are really important to do that.
So if I would make a recommendation, I think the biggest one is what's your contingency plan? If there is a cyber attack, an internet outage, a hurricane, a tornado, a power outage, how long can you live without data? 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 24 hours? So just think about your contingency plan.
Incorporate an adaptable solution. It would be my advice. Whether that's leveraging what you already have or implementing agile systems that give you some adaptability and flexibility.
Yeah, so I have 3 things. I think leverage predictive analytics is a key. I would make sure you're collaborating with partners. Chris mentioned that earlier, that I think collaborating with the right partners is a very important piece. And establish some type of control towers so that you have visibility to what's going on.
I think for me, the advice would be understand what you're good at and what you're not good at today. As you think about implementing new technology of any type, WMS particularly, it's understanding the shortfalls we have in the operation and how well we work with the systems and tools we have today, and how do you plan for that in the new tool? How do you overcome that?